Welcome back to the channel, everyone. And today we're going to talk about how much horsepower and how much torque do you actually really need. Behind me is about 400 plus horsepower. To my right is my awesome turbo road glide that the one and only Trask Performance built for me, and I run an average of over 200 horsepower and 200 torque to the rear wheel. To my left, I have my naturally aspirated 2019 Mako Shark CVO that's making 167 horsepower and about 155 foot-pounds of torque. With that being said, when I turn over the boost on my turbo and I put a VP 109 race fuel, and then on my Mako Shark CVO, when I put VP 109 race fuel, it bumps up the horsepower numbers. I can comfortably tell you that within those settings, behind me is about 400 plus horsepower. Man, that's insane saying that. That's crazy. Now that I said it, it's crazy that behind me, I have 400 plus horsepower. That's insane. And they're Harley Davidsons, like what the heck? Now that I share some numbers with you guys, we can talk of how much horsepower and how much torque do you really need. Your answer is going to depend on the kind of rider you are and what you're designing the motorcycle for. Myself, as an example, I wanted a motorcycle that could do all of it. In other words, haul ass and be fast as heck, but also be reliable where I can take it cross country and I can literally just enjoy my motorcycle in every single setting in various weathers, altitudes, and terrain. The engines in my motorcycles behind me have both been taken completely apart, case taken apart, new flywheels, and a bunch of go fast parts that each motorcycle has. Both of my engines have a lot of similarities, one of them being that they're both 131 cubic inches. The heads on both of these motorcycles has been ported, but this one more than this one. The heads in both of the motorcycles also have the SNS Top and Guardian kit. And of course, the difference between the heads are the springs and all that good stuff to accommodate the cams that I have in each specific one. Both of the cams are different, as are the pistons, as is the compression, because this one here is naturally aspirated, and this one here, well, we just have a bunch of boost going into it on the band, which is so cool. Both of these motorcycles also have a Baker transmission. All right, let's get back into it. So how much horsepower and how much torque do you actually really need? Well, like I mentioned, that varies from rider to rider and the purpose of the motorcycle to another motorcycle. If you want a motorcycle that's strictly for race, well, you can line it up, take a bunch of stuff off of it. You can beef up the engine components and just pretty much get all the horsepower and torque that you want. And on the other spectrum, if you want a motorcycle that can take you cross country, is reliable, and you can do that over and over and over, well, then you build your motorcycle to those specs. And let's not forget, those motorcycles that you buy new off the lot, they come with a 2-year or plus warranty. You know, you really can't dismiss that because those warranties, in case something comes up, is also very helpful when you're, out of town going on your trip. A lot of people have asked me, hey man, you're pushing 200 plus horsepower on this bad boy on the daily? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, man, that's cool, that's amazing. And I agree, but I always tell them, and I'm gonna tell you guys that, don't dismiss a Harley Davidson that has 130 foot-pounds or 130 horsepower, because that's a lot of horsepower and torque. That's a lot. I just went overboard with these. So how much horsepower and torque do you actually really need? Well, let's do this. Let's break it down in categories. The first category is going to be race. If you want your motorcycle for a race application, then obviously the more horsepower and the more torque and, the tires and the suspension and all that good stuff to make your motorcycle, hook, grip, and then go down the road and win the race, that's your main focus. The next category is riding cross country. And the first thing I'm gonna say is, we all want a nice loud exhaust on our motorcycles, but when you go long distance out of town, you might not want a super loud exhaust, because in those long road trips, brother, let me tell you, it can get pretty obnoxious, not only for you, but also for the people that are riding next to you or behind you. You can upgrade your cross-country motorcycle with like a stage 2 kit or something like that, even tune it, but that's entirely up to you. Now, one thing you do probably want to consider, and this is probably across the board, is your suspension. If you're happy how your stock suspension feels for you and for your body weight and for the added weight that you put in your motorcycle, stay with it. But if you're noticing that your suspension is a little too soft or a little too hard, then there's a lot of aftermarket companies out there that sell very nice suspension systems for your motorcycle. And of course, on your cross-country motorcycle, and again, this probably applies across the board, is your seat. You want to upgrade your seat with that motorcycle. And of course, the floorboards. There's a lot more things to cover in your touring kind of style of motorcycle, but I'm gonna stop it there. Now what we're gonna focus is in another category, which is the hybrid category, which is where I fall in, right? And that category is both. You want all the horsepower and all of the torque but you also want all the comforts and reliability that you get from your touring motorcycle. And that, my friends, is what I'm happy to say I have right behind me. Let's start with my turbo bagger right here. Now, this turbo bagger here is the only turbo road glide in the world that has not one, but 8 Saddle Sore 1000 patches and 1 iron butt in the gold status. And the iron butt is you ride for 1,500 miles in less than 24 hours. In my case, I rode with Reese and Grayson from Houston, Texas to El Paso and back, and we ended up doing 1,600 miles in 23 hours, and I want to say 38 or 37 minutes. Go to my channel page and you'll find the video there. So is it reliable? In my opinion, absolutely. Now, is that the only measure of reliability? Absolutely not. You have longer distances and you know, different elevations and stuff like that, of which I've put this motorcycle through. I've also used all kinds of pump fuel on this motorcycle because this motorcycle here runs strictly off of pump gas. Obviously, I can add VP 109 whenever I want, but you know, nobody wants to pay whatever VP 109 costs now. The turbo engine itself has around 32,000 miles. And let me tell you, my average speed is usually in the triple digits when I'm going out of town or across the country. A bunch of my friends will tell you that, you know, I can make it from here to, which is in Houston, to Daytona in pretty much the daytime of one day. And then again, no issues with my motorcycle. The only issue is that sometimes I just feel that there's not enough road or enough hours in a day to keep riding, you know? One thing I want to mention are my carbon fiber wheels. This motorcycle has had carbon fiber wheels on it since it had 3,000 miles. But this motorcycle now has upwards of 40,000 miles, and it's a 2022 year model. And no issues with my carbon fiber wheels. And I want to say the tires have been changed around 5 or 6 times. The rear one, well, more than that, I've lost count. Before I jump over to my Mako Shark Fade, I'm just gonna let you know to subscribe and like, because there's a lot of upgrades coming to this motorcycle here pretty soon. Now let's talk about my 2019 Mako Shark CVO that I absolutely love. I was selling it for a while there. If you're wondering why, well then go back to my channel page and there's this one video called Wife versus Biker. Go check it out and it'll probably answer a lot of your questions. And to my wife, I love you. I appreciate the support. It has a 131 cubic inch. The cylinders are from Danny Motorwitch over in Phoenix. The heads have a lot of work on them. They have been ported and polished. The springs and retainers and all that has been custom fit for the special cam that it has in it. The exhaust is the Fuel Moto RTX 2-in-1. And it sounds really, really good. While I'm in the exhaust, I know there's a lot of aftermarket exhausts out there, and there's a lot of good ones, so please don't take this as me talking down or bad about any brand that's out there. But I will tell you this, from personal experience, this Fuel Moto pipe here has been amazing. It's all in stainless steel, it sounds amazing, and it produces really good powers. There's a lot of shops out there that know what I'm talking about. And the price point of this pipe, y'all, is very economical compared to others, in my opinion. This pipe, this exact pipe, you can get it from Fuel Moto right now for around 1,100 bucks. And you know what? Black Friday and Cyber Monday's around the corner, so you could probably get it for sub $1,000, which is crazy. And it's a step header pipe. It sounds good, it looks good. It's a little dirty right now. Both of my motorcycles are dirty, but it is, I don't want to say it's a good bang for your buck because it makes it sound like it's cheap, and it's absolutely not. Don't dismiss somebody that has a Fuel Moto RTX pipe 2-in-1, because the ones that do probably know what they have. And therefore, they're probably running some good numbers. They also sell a shorter version, which also sounds amazing, but depending on what the application you're putting it on and what numbers you're trying to get, whether torque or horsepower, that'll determine, you know, which one you want. Oh, and before I forget, both of these motorcycles have aftermarket swing arms. This one here on my right, my turbo, has the Track Dynamics swing arm, and the one on my left has the Trask Performance swing arm. They're both good, but if I had to repeat again, I would probably just have the Trask Performance swing arm on both of them. I think that aesthetically it looks nice. It has its adjustability is super easy. Not that it's not with the Track Dynamics, but for me, I just prefer the look and feel of the Trask Performance swing arm. And again, that's the whole point of this channel, to share my information with you so you guys can make an informed decision on which route you want to go. As I mentioned, both of these motorcycles have been totally taken apart. On my turbo bagger here, I have a Dark Horse flywheel with Carrillo pistons. And on this one here, I have the SNS flywheel that you can get off of Drag Specialties, and it's good. I like it. This one here has the SNS flywheel you can get right off of Drag Specialties or SNS themselves, and I absolutely love it. It's great. While we're talking about the flywheels, let's talk about counterbalancers. This one here has a counterbalancer on it, and I like it a lot because, you know, your bars and stuff don't shake that much. This one here does not have the counterbalancer. It shakes a little bit more, but the nice thing about the flywheels you get from Dark Horse is that they're pretty leveled that you actually don't need the counterbalancer. And there's a lot of benefits on having a counterbalancer or not, just depending the application that you want. I'm not gonna speak on that because I don't consider myself an expert on counterbalancers for these M8 engines, but there's a lot of people online and on YouTube that know a lot more on that topic than I do. Let's talk about compression. My compression here on my turbo is 10:5, and that's because it's a turbo application. For a car application, that's probably very high, but you also have 8 or 6 cylinders, or even 4. In this case, we have 2. So Trask Performance, being the big daddy of turbo assistance for your Harley Davidsons, they know what they're doing, and I just went with what they did. And today, I haven't had any issues, which I'm super thankful. So Trask Performance, thank you for everything you've done for me. The compression on this one over here, I don't know if I should tell you. If you hit the like button, I'll tell you right now. The compression on this one is 12:1. Why? Well, because I wanted more horsepower and torque, and also I just kind of want to push the envelope. What's the max that I can get reliably that can get me cross country? Both of these motorcycles are outfitted with the ultra cool oil coolers. Now, anytime you increase your cubic inches, as most of you know, your engine's going to run just a little bit hotter or a lot hotter, depending if you go a 151 plus or you stay at the 107, 114 thing. But the higher you go in your cubic inches, the hotter it's gonna get. So what that does, obviously, is gonna heat up your engine oil a little bit more. And in my case, I decided to add the ultra cool oil coolers on both because, again, Trask Performance has it and runs it on their Bagger Racing League motorcycle. So when I saw that, I figured, hey, let me give Ultra Cool a call. And fortunately, I am now a friend with JJ, the owner of Ultra Cool, and he sent me these 2 out, and I'm happy to work with him. And on that note, go ahead and go to the website if you're interested. Use my code 2147CREW, and you'll get a 10% discount off your entire purchase. Oh, and I'm also running their Flow Oil Filter, which reduces your oil temperature by an average of 10 degrees. And I forgot to say that about the Ultra Cool Oil Cooler. Tests have shown that it reduces your oil temperature by up to 50 degrees, which is important on these hot days down south or anywhere in the south. Throttle bodies, right? On this one here, I have an HPI throttle body, and on this one here, I have a Screamin Eagle throttle body, and they've both worked good, and I haven't had any issues with either. And then that, I will say that Screamin Eagle sometimes, or a lot of the times, gets a bad rap for their performance parts. But I can tell you that the Screamin Eagle parts that I have on this motorcycle here, I haven't had any issues with them. They've been great. And why did I go with Screamin Eagle parts on this motorcycle? Well, I figure it's easier to get Screamin Eagle parts if something happened to me on the road than it is some of these other aftermarket parts from the Harley Davidson dealership. But fortunately, I've never had to do that, so that's awesome. The last thing I want to cover are some carbon fiber parts that I have on both of these motorcycles. My Turbo Road Glide over here has, including my carbon fiber wheels, probably around $11,000 to $12,000 in carbon fiber parts. On my Mako Shark CVO over here, I have around $1,300 or $1,400 of carbon fiber parts. Which company have I used? All of my carbon fiber parts, except for my front fairing, are from the one and only Hofman Design. And my front fairing is made by a company out in California that I can't remember the name. But again, I haven't had any issues with my carbon fiber front fairing. And looking in the light here, it looks pretty good, don't it? Now that we've covered a lot of parts that I have on both of these high performance motorcycles, let's go back to the question. How much horsepower and torque do you really need? If you gave me a brand new Road Glide and you said, hey crew, go ahead and do your thing, I would probably be happy with a 131 or a 135 kit from Harley Davidson, you know, an aftermarket tune, an aftermarket cam, obviously some aftermarket adjustable push rods, some tappets, to where I could get right around the between 150, 100 horsepower. For me, that's a sweet spot. That's what I would do, and that's in my opinion. And with something like that, you could still go cross country and come back and have a lot of fun on that motorcycle. The reason that I like that power is I'm kind of used to that power, so anything less is like, meh, right? But A lot of us forget or tend to overlook that when you're on the highway, you're on the road, and you come across traffic or you're trying to pass a row of 18-wheelers that have just been holding you back. That's actually very dangerous for a motorcyclist, and you just want to get on it and pass it, you know, is really for the passing power that you gain from having those numbers on the torque side and on the horsepower side. Because sometimes off of I-10 or Highway 90 way up north, or 95 south for that matter, you just have a row and row of these 18-wheelers that one's going 1 mile faster than the other and not. And by the time they pass up, nobody's being reckless, but it's just really slow, but you have traffic behind you. You're passing in between 18-wheelers. For me, that gets very, I just don't like that situation. So what I do, I just wait for the lane to clear up and I'm gone. I open it up, right? But you can still do that with the stock power of a motorcycle. However, on the Harley Davidsons, when you have that extra punch, that's when you're like, all right, I'm happy I got that upgrade, and I'm going to my destination, wherever that may be. Before we end this video, I want to cover one important thing that correlates with your power, the kind of power that you want to get or should get, right? And that's going to be the weight of your motorcycle. If you put, in my case, a lot of carbon fiber parts and lighten up that motorcycle, then essentially you don't need to have 150 or 130 horsepower. You could probably just get away just fine with a stage 2 kit on your motorcycle and have a blast. So if you're going to be planning to lighten up your motorcycle with the wheels, carbon fiber parts, or a different rear subframe, you know, you're gonna, or swing arms as well, then that's gonna reduce the weight of your motorcycle, and therefore whatever power you add is only gonna increase it when you're on the road. So you also wanna consider that. If you're gonna be reducing a lot of weight from your motorcycle, you might wanna look into a little further, research a little bit more on how much power you actually really want and need for your day-to-day motorcycle. Wrapping it up, how much horsepower and torque do you actually really need? Well, the answer is going to be entirely up to you. There's a lot of you guys that have been riding for 10, 15, 20 years plus. You already know what you want. You already know the sauce. Stick to that. For the newer riders, build up to it. My advice would be get yourself a stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, or borrow a friend's motorcycle that has these different stages. Ride it and see if you're comfortable with it, because sometimes, and it happens so much, or so often I should say, that I was a victim of that, but I just like a lot of power, so that kind of worked out for me. Then I'm like, well, I want 200 horsepower. Great, you got it. You get on it, you're like, okay, I feel this pressure in my chest. I don't know how I feel about it, but I'm gonna go with it. And that's how I feel every time I get on this beast here. But I like it, and then you just get adjusted to it. With that being said, you know, if you're a new rider, build up to it and just have fun. The last thing I'm gonna tell you on how much power you need is that no matter how much power you guys and ladies really want, ride your ride. If you wanna ride fast and you're comfortable around the curves, do that. If you wanna kick back and enjoy the scenery, do that. But no matter if you're riding by yourself or you're riding in a group, no matter how much or little power you have, ride your ride, because at the end of the day, we wanna be right here at home, spending time with our loved ones. And with that, please hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Till then, chill out and I guess get your build cheese so you can increase your power.